Earth appears to be 13.8 billion years old. Earth is like 4.5 billion years old. In another 500 million years or so, the sun will expand and probably evaporate the oceans and make life impossible on Earth, which means that if it had taken consciousness 10% longer to evolve, it would never have evolved at all. Just 10% longer. And I wonder how many dead one-planet civilizations there are out there in the cosmos that never made it to the other planet and ultimately extinguished themselves or were destroyed by external factors. Probably a few. Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you've ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. This is not true.
There are really two fundamental paths. History is going to bifurcate along two directions. One path is we stay on Earth forever, and then there will be some eventual extinction event. I don't have an immediate doomsday prophecy, but eventually history suggests there will be some doomsday event. The alternative is to become a spacefaring civilization and a multi-planet species, which I hope you would agree that is the right way to go.
Should be concerned about demographic implosion. So if you look at countries like Japan, most of Europe, China.
A new study finds this month's record-shattering global heat wave would not have been possible without the continuing buildup of greenhouse gases in the Earth's atmosphere due to human activity. Scientists at World Weather Attribution say a rapid analysis of weather data taken this month across China, southern Europe, and the American Southwest show high levels of carbon dioxide and other gases help drive temperatures by as much as 4.5 degrees Fahrenheit above pre-industrial levels. The researchers warn the past 20 days have likely been the hottest such stretch in more than 100,000 years. This comes as new research finds sea ice around Antarctica is in sharp decline and may never recover. Data from the University of Maine's Climate Change Institute show almost 2 million square kilometers less sea ice has accumulated so far during the Southern Hemisphere's winter compared to any previous year.
And you look at the birth rate in a lot of those places is only at about half of the sustaining rate. When you have an inverted demographic pyramid, so if you look at the pyramid, you've got age striation. 60-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 20-year-olds, like sort of a demographic pyramid.
Right.
And in some countries, it's like an upside-down pyramid, so it'll sort of fall over. It will not stand. What we'll actually have in those countries is a very high dependency ratio, where the number of people who are retired is very high relative to the number of people who are net producers. And so you cannot, the social safety net will not hold. We didn't evolve for this because we sort of evolved to just always procreate, and there wasn't birth control or anything.
Right.
We just like have lots of babies. It's like off the course, and like hopefully some of them would survive. That was like all of human history until very recently. And now it's, you've got cases like Japan where adult diapers outsell baby diapers. Europe's in a similar situation. China's headed the same way because they've had the one-child policy, and then even though they've relieved the one-child policy, the social norm has become to have an average of one kid. So even when they relieved that requirement, it didn't change.
Global warming. But by all means, let's build some more nuclear reactors, guys.
I don't. Again, gobsmacked is the only word I can think of.
You can imagine, like, people sometimes say, well, what about immigration? It's like, okay, look, there's 1.5 billion people in China. Where is China going to get 700 million new people? Okay, that's like 3 Indonesias. It's like, it doesn't work. And the full gravity of this is not well understood, but will become a severe issue in the next few decades.
So civilization here on Earth could end with a bang or a whimper. But it could also be like a whole series of things. Like, so like, what killed the dinosaurs? Well, it wasn't just one thing, you know. There was like a whole bunch of things happened in a row. They could have taken any one of those things. They had like 3 things happen.
Today's video comes from beautiful Bellows Falls, Vermont in the United States, and it involves 3 different bills. Not $100 bills, regular bills. Bills as in people. So, first bill says, "Good day. Will this spike in ocean temperatures affect the submarine college prediction for September?" Submarine. Apparently there's vessels involved. And I respond, perhaps slightly. The 6-month ensemble forecast is exceptionally conservative, though. Each observed point so far is greater than the forecast. And I've reported this a few times. If you actually follow the post-naval schools 6-month ensemble forecast, you will see that the red dots above the forecast are always above the forecast, indicating that for all the data we have so far, the actual number comes out to be higher than that predicted by the forecast. Bill number 2. Hello guys, sorry I missed your presentation at the Rockingham Library earlier this year. I also live in Bellows Falls. Question on the wildfire comments per the Florida TV station weather person comments. Aren't most of the wildfires in Canada intentionally set? Are we looking at an organized effort to mislead the public on some of the climate change reports by exasperating the situation through criminal activity like arson? Thank you, Bill. And my response? Aren't most of the wildfires in Canada intentionally set? That's his question. I say, I can't imagine this is the case. Lightning is the overwhelming source of fires in the US and Canada. The next thing he asks, aren't we looking at an organized effort to mislead the public on some of the climate change reports by exasperating the situation through criminal activity like arson? My response, I'd be very surprised. Bill writes, thanks for getting back to me with a lightning angle. When the fires are reported in the media, there is seldom a reason given as to how they started. Blaming these fires and volcanic activity on climate change is akin to the pandemic-era practice of hospitals finding nearly all deaths as COVID-related and then getting a funding premium for doing so. By the way, approximately 70% of wildfires in the United States and Canada come as a source with lightning as the source. Bill goes on, climate change is real, but the slipshod reporting muddies the waters. Perhaps this issue is too big to trust to a corporate soundbite media. An afterthought, since we stopped the practice of brush burning, there is more tinder to burn. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Native Americans also had scheduled burns to prevent larger, more devastating ones. I write, indeed they did. Government officials still do. I've lit hundreds of prescribed fires while working for government agencies and while working as a graduate student and professor at universities. Bill responds, thanks for the quick response, Guy. Reports I've heard stated that this practice was curtailed in California and actually helped fuel the wildfires there. I haven't responded. I receive more than 200 email messages every day, and I'm afraid I don't have time to respond to all of them, especially the ones that, well, I've already answered. That's the best way to put it, or at least the most polite way. This bill says, hey, I came up with another solution to climate change I thought I'd share. It's to move the Earth further away from the sun using psychic ability. I ignored that. Bill follows up. Maybe things can breathe in a certain way to sequester greenhouse gases or do so by other means. I ignore that because I can only tolerate so much irrelevant nonsense every day with more than 200 email messages I receive every day.
At countries like China and India building nuclear reactors, and they're getting hammered right now. Since water-cooled conventional nuclear reactors, that's 95% of the 436, are vulnerable to global warming, then is a molten salt reactor a magical solution? The answer, no, it is not. The Bulletin of Atomic Scientists published a detailed analysis of molten salt reactors entitled Molten Salt Reactors Were Trouble in the 1960s and Remain in Trouble Today, June 20th, 2022. The lengthy article traces the attempted development of molten salt reactors dating back to the 1950s.
Right now we don't have any laws that holds the carbon in the ground. We don't have any laws that long-term protect us against the self-destructing greed that we have let in full control over the world. The laws have to be changed. We know that we cannot save the world by playing by the rules because the rules have to be changed.
Algeria says at least 34 people have been killed and thousands more evacuated as nearly 100 wildfires burn across 16 provinces. The fires were fueled by extreme heat in North Africa, which has added to the misery of migrants attempting to cross the Mediterranean to apply for asylum in Europe. In Tunisia, asylum seekers, mostly from sub-Saharan Africa, forced to live in makeshift tent camps, are languishing under a sweltering heat wave with temperatures reaching 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Meanwhile, dozens of migrants who were rounded up by Tunisian authorities and stranded in a desolate militarized area in the Tunisian border with Libya have described harrowing conditions in the heat wave. Many have been stuck there for at least 2 weeks without any food, fresh drinking water, or shelter from the rising temperatures. This is an asylum seeker from Nigeria.
No food, no water. They materialize us here, they brutalize us, there are snakes here, nowhere to sleep, nothing to eat. We are begging on the new end to please come to our aid. We are suffering here brutally. Look at our skin have been infected with different infection, no treatment, no food. They have been maltreating us maliciously, which is very wrong.
Again, for my friends who are like, but there's new technology on the horizon. It is not. They are not viable yet, and they probably won't be viable anytime soon. Excuse me. The various avenues of experimentation with halting results consumes paragraph after paragraph. For example, here's one excerpt. These problems remain relevant. Even today, no material can perform satisfactorily in the high radiation, high temperature, and corrosive environment inside a molten salt reactor. In 2018, scientists at the Idaho National Laboratory conducted an extensive review of different materials and, in the end, could only recommend that a systematic development program be initiated. In other words, 50 years after the molten salt reactor was shut down, technical experts still have questions about materials development for a new molten salt reactor design. And again, that's how much carbon is going to be involved in building those reactors, right? You know.
Down in South America and the southern portion of Africa, where it's winter there, but you would never know it. They're in the 100s and the 80s and 70s. They're not even in winter weather for some reason. But let's talk about some of the ramifications of global climate change. This is just one example. By the way, we're in our heat wave now, very warm out. Drought hit the Panama Canal. The canal relies on rainwater to move ships through a series of locks that that function like water elevators, raising the ships up and over the continent between the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. So there's a small mountain range that they have to lift the ships up and over, and they use rainwater to fill these locks. However, the water shortage due to the low rainfall has forced operators to restrict the number of ships passing through the canal. So if they're at a certain draft, so much ship is down underneath the water, they have to restrict the ships and they have to go around the Horn of South America. This is a $200 million drop in earnings because they're having to curtail how many ships go through the canal. That is a $200 million drop in earnings all the way until 2024, when the drought is expected to lift, or they're hoping the drought will lift then. They are blaming this El Nino and climate change on the problem. This crisis is unusually severe and will last until September of 2024. So on another subject, across the globe, hot days are getting hotter and more frequent while we're experiencing fewer cold days. It looks like in July 2023, Earth broke its record for the hottest days for 4 days in a row. Over the past decade, daily record highs, high temperatures, have occurred twice as often as record lows across the U.S. Heat waves are becoming more common and intense. Heat waves are more frequent in the U.S. If CO2 emissions are not curtailed, daily highs and low temperatures will increase by at least 5 degrees Fahrenheit by the mid-century. So the newest predictions is 5 degrees above industrial levels by mid-century, 2050. Well, that's definitely a death sentence.
March 18th, 2021, the 140-page report highlights studies of sodium-cooled reactors, molten salt-fueled reactors, high-temperature gas-cooled reactors, and whether they meet the requirements of safer, B, more secure, C, lower risk of nuclear proliferation and terrorism than the existing fleet of nuclear reactors. None of the three satisfactorily passed the study. Additionally, the report analyzed unsubstantiated claims developers are making about designs and using little hard evidence to advance their causes. For example, Bill Gates' statements about the 345 megawatt Natrium, claiming it will produce less nuclear waste and be safer than conventional light water reactors.
I think controlling atmokinesis, parentheses, psychically controlling the weather, would be the best solution to climate change I can think of. We already influence the weather and the entire universe with our mindset because the universe is the mind. We're all one. Form is formed from a single infinite potential consciousness which takes up all the space, and what we are fundamentally was never created. Now that's a sentence. So it could work. The higher our state of consciousness is, the better. For this and other reasons, I think classic psychedelics need to be completely legal for everyone as soon as possible, because they can raise a person's state of consciousnesses to take them towards nirvana in either hours or seconds, depending on what is taken and what way it is taken. Whilst experiencing nirvana, it is the best thing for oneself and everything else in the universe because one is completely without fear or stress. Whilst experiencing nirvana, one would feel most alive and, so long as it's maintained, not pass away. Even if we didn't need to perform atmokinesis to preserve life on Earth, I still think classical psychedelics should be completely legal for everyone. And I think that psychedelics should be free for everyone as well. And in fact, I think we should do that with all of the drugs that are currently deemed illegal. We're adults. Can the government start treating us like adults? It would surprise me. At the edge of extinction, only love remains. But there's a certain amount of craziness out there too.
The USC report found that sodium-cooled fast reactor Natrium to be less uranium efficient and would not reduce the amount of waste, and it's subject to serious safety problems, not an issue with conventional light water reactors, e.g. sodium coolant can burn when exposed to air or water, and its fast reactor could experience uncontrollable energy increases leading to rapid core melting, which is the overriding bane of nuclear energy. According to the Union of Concerned Scientists, timing is another killer of contemporary designs. According to requirements to be met by federal regulators, it could take up to 20 years and billions of dollars to commercialize non-light water reactors, cycle facilities, and related infrastructure. Timing is everything when it comes to meeting the necessity of reaching net zero emissions, as global warming is not waiting around for solutions. It is accelerating like never before, as stated by Dr. James Hansen. There has been a staggering increase in Earth's energy imbalance. Hansen's formula supporting the statement points to a distinct possibility of 1.5 C right around the corner. That is right now, not around the corner, it is right now. We are at 1.5 right now. Which begs the question, how long does it take to plan, approve, build, and commission a nuclear reactor? Oh well. In conclusion, the Union of Concerned Scientists recommends the DOE and Congress should consider spending more research and development dollars on improving the safety and security of light water reactors rather than on commercializing immature, overhyped, non-light water reactor designs. As usual in cases with extremely difficult circumstances dealing with nature, there are no easy answers but plenty of traps. In that regard, is nuclear energy a Trojan horse for devastating global warming?
Final comment from this particular bill, and final comment for today's video.
And in maintaining those reactors. Anyways. Let's see. In conclusion, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists claims that if molten salt reactors are constructed, they are unlikely to operate reliably and would result in various safety and security risks and would produce several different waste streams, all of which require extensive processing and serious disposal challenges. Accordingly, according to the Bulletin, investing in molten salt reactors is not worth the cost or the effort. If not large-scale reactors, will small modular reactors save the day? According to a 2021 article in the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, SMRs are at an early stage of development and are speculative technologies. It will take at least a decade to get them off drawing boards into serious production and longer to determine if they really work according to plan. So we have no way of knowing whether these are going to work. It's too slow and too costly to meet climate deadlines. We have no idea if they're going to work, so let's go ahead and build a bunch of them. Cross our fingers. Stanford News published an SMR study. Stanford-led research finds small modular reactors will exacerbate challenges of highly radioactive nuclear waste. The study concludes that SMRs will generate more radioactive waste than conventional nuclear energy plants. Our results show that most small modular reactor designs will actually increase the volume of nuclear waste in need of management and disposal by factors of 2 to 30 for the reactors in our case study. Totally workable. A SMR analysis by Brent Flibjerg, I don't know how to pronounce that. The leading global academic in mega project failures and successes consulted on over 100 major mega projects. Nuclear fallacy, why modular reactors can't compete with renewable energy. That was in Clean Technica, February 18th, 2023. Then, to satisfy the overwhelming popularity to go nuclear, are any modern advanced nuclear reactor designs worth pursuing? Answer, no, according to a study by the Union of Concerned Scientists. Report finds that advanced nuclear reactor designs are no better than current reactors and some are worse.